Navratri, 9 Avtars of Ma Durga. Day 6 of Navratri celebrating Katyayani. Now I request CMA Savedi Madam to introduce our today's speaker, CMA Anuradha Dhavilkar. Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, all of you. Today we have with us CMA Anuradha Dhavalkar ma'am. She has a very rich experience as she is a member of the institute and has done her BCom from Pune University. She also holds a diploma in information systems audit and has been a registered valuer since 2019. She has been in practice for the last 26 years and has worked in various roles in this time. Ma'am, it's an honor to have you with us today. I request you to kindly take charge of the session.
Thanks a lot, Sabedi, for the brief but nice introduction. And thank you, Gauri, for giving me this opportunity to speak today. So I will start my session with my presentation. I hope the presentation is visible to all of you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So welcome to the celebration of Devi Katyayani today on day 6. And I take this opportunity to thank the entire WIRC team for calling me to speak today. So let me first begin with a few details about Devi Katyayani. She is the goddess of power, and today being the 6th day, we are celebrating the color green. Green stands for prosperity and peace. Now, to understand why and how Katyayani came into being, there was a huge Rakshasa called Mahishasur. He was in the form of a bull buffalo, Mahish or Reda in Marathi. And he had this Vardhan from Brahma that no animal or man could defeat him. So the only way he could have been defeated was through a woman. And Mahishasur was so confident that what can a woman do to a huge, powerful bull like him? So he was creating chaos and destruction everywhere. All the gods were very angry with him, but they did not know how to handle him all by themselves. So they all concentrated their anger and energy and sent all the rays into the ashram of Maharshi Katyayana. So there, when these rays crystallized, Devi Katyayani, that is Katyayana's daughter, she was born. She assumed the form of a calm, collected, beautiful woman. And as she was going about her life, Mahishasur was very attracted towards her. He tried to propose to her. But then the goddess refused his proposal very calmly and told him not to pursue her. But then he continued. He thought that what can this young, delicate little lady do to me? Ultimately, she will give in to my great strength and power. So one day he challenges her, and Devi gets really angry that in spite of explaining to him that she is not interested in his proposal, this person keeps on following her around and troubling her. So she gets off from her mount. She is mounted on a lion and climbs onto Mahishasur's back. Initially, Mahishasur is very happy that she's climbing onto his back because he thinks he can carry her away. But then he's taken by surprise because even though the feet are so gentle, the force that these feet give on his back are so great that he falls down to the ground, and the Devi kills him with her Shiva Khadga or Chandrahas. So, if we look at the story from a scientific perspective, we will see that Katyayani is nothing but a concentration of different forces of opposite nature. There is Agni, there is Varun, there is Vayu. So many gods of different powers have come together and formed Katyayani. Now, we see that in today's world, in modern science, we have the same concept. If anyone of you have watched Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, you would have heard the term collider. So what is a collider? It is a real thing, and it's not just in the movie. In a collider, what happens is particles carrying energy like protons, electrons, neutrons, they hit each other at a very high speed and new material is formed. In this way, scientists were able to identify a new material called Higgs boson. So we can compare this to Katyayani's birth. Energies of opposite kind came together in equal force and they formed Katyayani. Now, there are three important dimensions to this goddess. The first one I see is balance. What would have happened if Agni would have been dominant and Varun would have been mild? The lady would have turned out to be very aggressive. So the two forces were balanced so that she was gentle and yet very powerful. So same way, different kinds of energies have to be balanced. Even in our everyday life, we have to have balance with nature, balance with our families, balance with work, and all the anger and all the love that we have within us. All our emotions also have to be kept in balance for us to perform well. Then the second thing that I notice about Katyayani is progress. What happened after all the energies came together? They formed into a woman, beautiful woman, and that too on this planet Earth. All the energies were from Devlok, but it progressed into something beautiful on this earth. What would have happened if this progress had not taken place? The energies would have simply gone back to their origin. So progress is something that is essential to maintain life. Then comes harmony. What would have happened if each of the gods would have tried to defeat Mahishasur on their own? Or even if they tried together without really planning it out together like they did with Katyayani, they would have been defeated easily. But because they were in harmony, all their forces together gave power to Katyayani. She was able to defeat this demon. So these are important dimensions in even our everyday lives. Let us understand what is required or which are the important aspects of each of these three dimensions. Now here, if you look at the first photograph, you will observe that there is a lake, there are trees surrounding the lake, and there is a sky which has a few clouds. Now, what would have happened to this photograph had it not been clicked with the trees in the center and the exact balance between the sky and the lake? It would have looked skewed. It would not have looked so beautiful. So equilibrium, symmetry is an important aspect of balance. Then we see gymnasts, cyclists, people doing physical activity with a lot of balance. How does that happen even when they are moving? It requires strength, it requires flexibility, and a lot of training. Is a baby able to stand on its two legs and walk immediately after birth? No. What it requires is a lot of strength, flexibility training for almost a year and a half before it can learn to walk, run, right? So the same way, whatever we are doing, if we have to have balance in that work, our mind and body both have to have strength, flexibility, and training. Then comes a broad base. If you look at a pyramid, it is a very balanced structure. The pyramids in Egypt have not fallen down in spite of so many earthquakes, floods, and whatnot. Why? Because the base is very broad, and each step that is built on it is slightly smaller than the base. So this arrangement of a broad base is important to balance. The same thing goes for us. Our knowledge base has to be so strong in the profession that we can build on it, gain new experience, gain new insights, and grow and maintain our balance in the profession. Then the next aspect that I spoke about was progress. Even if we do nothing, Like for millions of years, do you think each and every individual in the society did something to become something more? Maybe, may not be. Not everybody was so active in contributing to the development of the society. But then with time, progress took place. From the Stone Age, today we are in the information age, right? So progress never stops. It is continuous. Even if you don't do anything, time is going to go forward. So it is important to understand that forward movement of the world is going to take place continuously. It is up to you to catch the bus. Then comes which way to progress. Now, each one of us has to decide which way to go. We have to define our own goals, our own destiny. Sometimes the path may be easy, it may be like an expressway. Sometimes your goals may be such that nobody has tried that before. Look at our Chandrayaan mission. None of the Indians had ever tried something like that. So ISRO had its own way. They designed their own Chandrayaan, they designed their own rocket and engine and everything. So it was a difficult path, but they chose it. So life may be a highway for some, or it may be a jungle in which you're walking alone. Then comes the effort which is required for progress. Please remember, however much you may like to think that you have achieved your CMA degree yourself, you have set up your own practice, or you have achieved a job with a fat pay, it is never your effort alone. It is a teamwork. Your parents have put you through good schooling. They have supported you during your education. Your family has supported you during your early days of the career. Your teammates in your job have supported you with their efforts as well. So always progress comes with a lot of people supporting you, helping you grow. Then we talk about harmony. What is harmony? Speaking in one voice in a way that is very pleasant. Now, harmony will come only if there is diversity. If every human being was a clone of another one, would we really enjoy life? It would be very boring, I believe. Right? There would be no differences of opinion. There would be no jokes being cracked. So there has to be diversity in the universe in order for there to be harmony in the first place. So there has to be noise, there has to be sound, and that sound has to be arranged in such a way that there is music. So diversity, differences of perspective are required. So whenever we are in an organization, maybe as a practitioner, maybe as an employee, we have to keep in mind that there have to be different opinions. There have to be people of different kinds. Otherwise, it's no fun. You're walking alone. Then comes convergence, synergy, and prioritization. Look at the picture in the middle. It is that of a housefly. Now, what is so unique about this creature? What appears to us as one round eye, the brown round figure that you can see, is actually a compound of many small eyes, thousands of small eyes. Now, our life is also like that. We get inputs from so many sources. Even when you're talking to a client, you're observing things that are happening in the factory. You're getting documents from somebody. Somebody is talking to you in a meeting and giving you different inputs. Same thing happens at home. So you get information from different sources, and there has to be a convergence. All of this have to be put together to give you a bigger picture. And there has to be synergy. That is, different pieces must fit into a jigsaw puzzle so that a picture is arranged. By themselves, each piece is hardly anything. It has no meaning. Then comes prioritization. Now imagine if you are stuck with 50 emails as soon as you come to office and open your mailbox. Would you start going through each one of them serially? No. Probably you would first put aside all the ad mails into a separate folder. You would look at emails from your subordinates and seniors to see how much of them are urgent, how many are not. You would first give preference to your client emails, then look after the ones which you can handle a little later. And then finally, if you find time, you will look at the advertisements, right? So prioritization of information that is coming in is also important to us. Then comes creativity, flow, and unanimity. Whenever you are preparing any report, whether it is MIS report, whether it is cost audit report, there has to be creativity in it. Just imagine if you got the same standard news item in the same size in the news box every day. You would only read the headline and get over with it. If it was written in the same language, in the same manner, it would become drab and dry after some time, right? So creativity is important to convey your message, to hold the person's attention, because ultimately it is all about communicating. Then comes the flow. Whatever you are saying has to be arranged in such a manner that there is a flow to it, there's continuity to it. Just imagine if I began by saying, Dhanyavad, thank you for listening to my speech today. It would make no sense, right? So, the same way, in anything that we are communicating, there has to be a flow, one paragraph to another, one sentence to another. There has to be a link between them. And finally, there has to be unanimity. That is, it has to convey one clear message to whoever is reading it or hearing you. Otherwise, there'll be chaos. If you're putting too many things into the report, the reader will be confused. He will not know what is important and what is not. So the main punchline should be very clear in anything that you are saying or reporting. So this was about harmony. Now, today being the 6th day and we are celebrating the green color, I would like to introduce to you 6 Indian women who are climate champions. I look at the color green from the point of view of environment. And I have selected 6 young women because Katyayani herself was a young lady. So, and I have taken this information from the United Nations Development Project India report last year. So let us see who these 6 women are. The first one I'd like to introduce is Monica Jha. She has done some work regarding sustainable street lighting solutions. Monica is hardly 28 years old. Besides being an expert in technology, she has her own company. She has launched Saidi Technologies in 2017. It's a young company, just like the founder. And the work she has done is to develop fixtures for the street lights, for the LED bulbs, so that the beams of light will spread over a larger area of the road as compared to the conventional fixtures. So how does this help the environment? Firstly, you'll need fewer lights or the poles all over the road. Secondly, what will happen is, since there are lesser number of bulbs used, electricity will be saved, right? So there is a dual saving, saving in the material as well as saving in the electricity consumption. Now, what was the motivation behind her work? In her own words, she says, it is to improve the coverage of street lights across the city in order to help women to feel safer at night. So here is a lady, a Katyayani, who is trying to protect her sisters through street light improvement. The second person I'd like to introduce to you is Dr. Prerna Goradia. Dr. Prerna Goradia is a materials chemistry expert, and she had this strong wish to make use of her knowledge base because she has studied abroad and, really learned the best of materials chemistry from the best of organizations across the world. So when she was studying, she realized that there are certain industries which really give out a lot of pollutants into the air and into the water. And the amount of energy that is required to clean the air afterwards and to clean the water is very high. Also, if it has not been done properly, it will lead to diseases in the people. So she has developed certain new products altogether into the market, which she calls Pure Safe and Pure CODE. So it treats the water and air for industries like paper, textiles, pharma, and it is cheaper than the currently available technologies in the market. So here we have a broad-based knowledge being put to practical use. Then the next person is again a very young woman. She is hardly 25, Punjpreet Arora. She has developed sustainable bricks for construction. Now look at the story. She is a civil engineer from Udaipur. Udaipur is a beautiful lake city. It has so many lakes around it. And as she was growing up, she saw that a lot of construction waste was being dumped around those lakes. And this really hurt her. So she decided to do something about it. She formed a company called Angiras after her degree. And she worked on the plastic waste that was easily available from the industries around her. And she developed a brick called bricks. Why is it called bricks? Because it uses 100% recycled waste. The W stands for waste material. So this waste material, again, she has sourced from marble or any other debris which is lying around the construction sites. Also, she has used industrial waste like fly ash. So this gives you the alternatives of completely reusing whatever waste is generated by construction and making into bricks. And she started by making small cubes first, tested them for strength, for resilience, whether it will withstand all the weather conditions. Because it's going to be used for construction, it has to withstand weather for several decades, not just for a day. So extensive testing had to be done. So once those cubes were performing well, then she made bricks out of them. And she made them to match the current bricks that are being used in Udaipur. So what does this lady say? That you start small, start testing, start trying out whatever your ideas are. And if they work out, then make it big. Then the next lady is Janvi Rana. She has started providing clean drinking water using solar thermal energy. We all know that municipal water supply uses a lot of chemicals in cleaning the water. So Janavi wanted to change that. She wanted a easier and more eco-friendly method of purifying water. Why did she do this? Because she saw she is from a place called Surat in Gujarat, where there is water scarcity. And whatever water, groundwater is available, it is rather brackish. That is, it has a lot of salt in it. So she developed a certain kind of unit which helps the desalination plants to convert seawater into drinking water. And this happens efficiently as well as at a low cost. It is again a double power saving scheme because you're using water and you're using sunlight to disinfect it, to filter it, to settle all the salinity in it, right? And she has also formed a company called Solans, and she aims to provide over 1,000 people in and around Surat with water. So this young lady's sensitivity to the women around her, again, has led to this invention. Then we have Shaivi Malik, who has again created sustainable refrigerated trucks. Shaivi is also hardly 25. She is a student at IIT Delhi. And even in her student days, she has formed the company XRL Technologies. She's an enthusiast about hardware. Nowadays, we see a lot of young people who are engineers. They tend to go towards software, AI, data analytics, and so on. So Shaivi has stuck to hardcore hardware business. And while she was studying the Delhi pollution, she realized that it is because of diesel mainly. And then she saw that a lot of medicines, drugs, dairy, meat, they had to be transported through diesel trucks, which were refrigerated. The refrigeration system was working on the diesel. So there she realized that there was a scope for saving on the pollution as well as on the cost of operating a truck. So she has developed an electrical system which will not use the diesel, and it will still maintain the low temperatures that are required for transporting these things. So again, sensitivity to the problem, analyzing where exactly things are going wrong, and then focusing on one area, like Arjun focused on the eye of the fish, which he was expected to shoot. So the same way, Shaivi has also focused on one small item in it, which would make a big difference. That is refrigeration units powered by electricity rather than diesel. This has resulted in 15 to 25% of savings in the fuel cost. So just imagine how much of pollution it will be saving on. Then we have Karishma Shah. Karishma Shah has converted plastic paper waste into usable products. Now, this is a funny analogy actually, but then I'd like to share it. From dust you rise and dust you go, right? That is a saying in Bible, and we even say it in Hindi, like "Mati se bana hai to mati mein mil jayega." So the same way, Karishma thought that plastic comes from mineral oil, and mineral oil is nothing but fuel. So okay, this has come from a liquid; it has to go back to liquid. So she has developed a technology where plastic paper can be converted into liquid and gas, and of such a grade that they can be used as fuel. Okay, so she has developed a plant which can handle 12 metric tons of solid paper waste and convert it into 2000 liters of fuel and 6 metric tons of briquettes. What are briquettes? They are brick-like objects which can be used instead of coal. So what Karishma has focused on is like the paper industry in India uses a lot of waste paper, and this waste paper comes with wax, plastic, metal coating. So paper industry invariably generates a lot of plastic waste. So this residual plastic from the paper mills gets converted into fuel to run the plants. So now we come to the second part of my presentation. I say women CMAs awaken the Katyayani within you. Why should we do it? We should do it for all-round and sustainable development. We have to first develop ourselves first. Only then we will be able to develop the society. When I started looking for information on green technology and how a CMA can relate to it, what is it that we can do, what are the laws relating to environment, I came across several things. One is green bonds. Those are issued by the RBI for environmental projects. Then the second thing I came across was the recent notification on carbon credits trading. We are also soon going to have a carbon credit trading market, just like Singapore and Europe. Then the next thing that I noticed was CSR reporting is already there under the Companies Act 2013. There are ways in which we CMAs can contribute to it. Then I looked at CRA 1 and CRA 3 in a cost audit report. Now, these also involve costs regarding environment. What we do is we remove them as non-cost most of the times. When we classify the costs, when we collect statistical data, we remove the quantitative information which is regarding CSR activities and all, right? So we have to now think about ways of allocating and absorbing costs into a separate basket called the green basket. Then I also saw, since I'm a registered valuer, that there is an impact of intangible ESG components on business valuation. Any company which is contributing less to environmental damage is certainly more valuable than a company which is damaging the environment. So just as a funny side, when I typed into my laptop and I asked the AI what is the CMA scope in carbon credits trading scheme? It gave me a very long answer. India's carbon credit trading scheme 2023 was notified on so-and-so date and by so-and-so ministry under so-and-so act, so on and so forth. After reading through the entire para, I came down to the last sentence which said, however, I'm sorry that I'm not able to provide information about CMA scope in carbon credits trading scheme 2023, as it is not mentioned in my sources. Is there anything else I can help you with? So you see, artificial intelligence is really artificial. It will not help you find scope in all these areas. You have to find it yourselves. That is what I realized from this. Now, jokes apart, there are some things that I noticed while reading all these things on the net, and I have tried to summarize them here so that all of us can think about them and try and find out where we can expand our knowledge base and provide service to the society, to the government with our skill sets. Firstly, regarding sovereign gold bonds, the RBI has recently issued two series of sovereign green bonds. One has a 5-year term and one has a 10-year term. The 5-year term bond carries 7.10% interest and the 10-year term bond carries 7.29% interest rate. Now, these interest rates, if you see, are slightly lower than the normal sovereign bond rates for infrastructure projects or other reasons. But still, they are attractive enough because the difference is hardly 0.5 basis points. That is 0.005%. Anybody would like to say something? Okay, I'll continue. Then who regulates this? SEBI regulates this. Because it is a bond, it is a non-convertible security. It comes under the SEBI issue and listing of non-convertible securities regulations. That means even private parties can henceforth issue green bonds, that is funds which they raise for the purpose explicitly for environmental projects. They may be buying environmental assets or they may be carrying out some activities regarding environment. Then a list of projects as far as the government bonds are concerned has been given by RBI. Private parties would have to have their own list. Then comes the fun part. Normally, if there is an infrastructure project for which the government is taking funding, then the interest is linked or the output is linked to the outcome of the project. If the project is completed on time or if it is delayed, it will make a difference to the interest component. But in the case of green bonds, RBI has specifically set aside the risks. It has not passed on the risks of project performance or project completion to the investors. That means investors will definitely get a percentage of interest that has been guaranteed. And since it's a sovereign bond, certainly the principal amount is also very safe. So to me as a CMA, I see this as a very good opportunity for investing funds wherever there are senior citizens or even who have some funds to spare. If they don't have any expansion programs immediately, they can park the funds here. Then comes the carbon credits trading. What is a carbon credit? Whenever there is a limit of carbon emission or greenhouse gas emissions specified for any industry, and a company manages to produce its goods even below those emission levels, means it gives out less of carbon dioxide or less of greenhouse gases, then the difference between the highest level specified by the government and the company's own generation is the credit that it has earned. Worldwide, there are companies who are unable to meet the requirements specified by the government, and their governments have allowed them to buy credits from companies who are saving. Okay, so sooner or later, what will happen is these credits will become saleable in the Indian market as well. Currently, you can sell them in Singapore, but Soon it will come to India as well. India will have its own market. Now, there is a steering committee which has been formed. It consists of both the Ministry of Power as well as the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forests. So both ministries are involved so that there will be a balance in defining how much should the carbon limit for each industry be. They have selected 13 industries for the purpose. And also, how far should these credits go on lowering? That is, the limit will keep on coming lower and lower, lower and lower, till finally, most of the industries are compliant. Then when this market comes up naturally, just like the stock market, it will require a lot of other relevant things. Like there will be a credit certification. Somebody will have to say that, yes, this company has earned so many credit points. Then there will be some green rating, just like you have ICRA for credit rating, you will have some rating agency, which will give green rating to the businesses. Just like you have accounting standards, you will also have environmental accounting standards, and then audit will be required. So there will be auditing standards there. Already there are certain environmental accounting standards worldwide, but they are not mandatory. It is up to each to adopt them or not. So there is a lot of work that I see in these areas as well. Then we talk about the reporting framework in the Companies Act. Now, there are two aspects of green reporting. One is through the CSR reporting. Now, CSR expenditure is compulsory for companies who have a turnover of more than 1,000 crores, or who have a net worth of more than 500 crores, or a net profit of more than 5 crores in any financial year. And how much are they expected to spend? At least 2% of the 3 years average net profit. Now, this is a very huge amount being spent. The 2% of profits is not small, and especially for companies who have turnovers of more than 1,000 crores. And these companies are expected to form a CSR committee, which will define the CSR policy. It will tell the board of directors what should be the kind of activities that should be taken up. And then the board of directors is expected to carry out those CSR activities, spend that money, and publish a CSR report saying that these are the areas where we have spent this amount of money. In case some amount is unspent, then they are expected to put it in the director's report along with the reason why they have not spent it. So far, the audit of this annual CSR report was not mandatory, but now we have come up with social audit, right? We have our own ICMAI social audit organization. So sooner or later, this is going to become mandatory. So it will be quite advantageous for all of us to at least learn the accounting aspects of CSR activities, reporting aspects of CSR activities, and then maybe appear for this exam if we are interested in this kind of audit. Accounting and reporting of these kind of activities would be very helpful, especially for those who are in employment. Then we come to cost records and cost audit. Now, if you look at the data available at the India level, electricity generation in India accounts for 35% of greenhouse gases. That is pollution, which has a greenhouse effect. It increases the heat and it causes climate change. Now, all right, out of this 35% of greenhouse gas, look at India's area. We are hardly 2.4% of the world's land area. And how many people do we have living? 17.5% of the world's population. So we are very densely populated. And how much pollution are we generating? Air pollution, 7% of the global carbon emission. We are ranked third in the world. So a majority of the people, 17.5% of the people are breathing in 7% of carbon emissions. And all that emission is concentrated on 2.4% of the world's land. So I think we as a country have a big health hazard as compared to any other country. So sooner or later, government will have to look at these things and they will have to find out, just like financial accounting was not sufficient, they had to have some sort of cost audit mechanism where quantities and financial amounts would be put together. Government is going to require this reporting as well. So why don't we tweak our cost audit report a little bit? While we are allocating costs, we also find out what was the spend on air pollution control, water pollution control, or landfills. And why don't we find out how much was the emissions, how much was the wastewater generated, so that there is a quantitative information alongside the expenditure made. So this will help us in the future. We can confidently tell the government that we are already equipped with all this. Please allow us to include it in our records or in our audits. And what is more, even today, even if it is not mandatory, this kind of information is going to be very helpful. Because when the carbon trading system starts, carbon credit trading, then companies will realize that this is a source of income. And it is better to invest in clean technologies so they can generate more carbon credits and earn from that as well. Then finally comes the impact of ESG components on valuation of assets and liabilities. Now, besides being a registered valuer, what I see is there is scope for valuation even within Ind AS. If a company is holding shares of another company, those, if listed, will require a valuation certificate. If there are other assets being held, those assets would also have to be valued, that is plant, equipment, property, in certain cases on the basis of their fair market value. So while these values are being calculated for accounting purposes, you will find that there is a lot of ESG component or factors which affect the value. Let us see the environmental factors. For example, if a bank has given out loans to farmers, and because of climate change, in 1 year, the entire crop is lost in a certain area, then what will happen? The farmer's output is affected, and so their loan repayment capacity is affected, right? And so the bank's asset, the quality of the asset is also impacted. The cash flow is impacted. Loan repayments may come in late. Maybe the government may decide to subsidize some of the interest or may decide to put in some amount into the farmer's account, but those are not predictable matters. Then social factors. Social factors also impact the value of an asset. For example, if you look at labor costs, how many women were in work in 1947 and how many working women are there today? There is a huge difference. And why has this difference occurred? Over a period of time, the society has come to accept a law which was passed saying that the marriageable age of the girls will be 18 years. So gradually, grown-up girls started being at home. And since they were at home, they started working. Some got educated and then started working. Some started working early. And so you have a lot of women in the workforce today. And although it is a negative for us women, but we are generally paid less than men in any work. So the more the women in the workforce, lower is the labor cost. So these social factors have a long-term impact or medium-term impact on the cash flows. Then there are certain governance factors. Now, governance factors could have near-term impact or they could have medium to long-term impact. For example, the Notbandi which took place in 2016, it had an immediate impact. Cash flow simply stopped. Okay. And we can also feel the long-term impact yet. Because since then, the nature of cash flows has changed. So what happens is all these things have an impact on the cash flow of a business. Since it is affecting cash flows, it is affecting your profitability, it is affecting your business value. Now, there was an interesting survey carried out by the IVSC, that is the International Valuation Standards Council. This council is formed by several bodies put together. These are OECD plus some private companies. They are issuing standards for valuation work. So they had this ESG related survey conducted, which covered both people who are getting their businesses valued as well as people who are in the valuation practice. So this study said that those firms who are spending on environment or social activities or governance, they said that they are not following any reporting framework. 20% of them said that they are following the UN framework. So look at it, 1/5 of the world is not following any standards. In India, since there is a CSR reporting framework, at least some companies are following that. So there is scope that those companies who are not covered by the compulsory part of the CSR, but are making some CSR expenditure, there is scope that we can have standards for them. We can at least have an accounting framework. Then 25% of the valuation providers said that they don't find any standard useful while they are actually doing the working. They don't find any guidelines for the specific problems they are facing, or there are no specific methods for if you come across this kind of ESG activity, use this method. There is nothing like that. So each one of them is struggling with the limited information that they have with their own expertise. So again, here there is scope for codifying it, putting it into writing. Now, fortunately for us cost accountants, our ICMAI RBO is a member of the IVSC. So through them, all of us can make suggestions for standards on accounting, standards on valuation, and these will become applicable worldwide. So look at the kind of recognition that we can get if we make valuable suggestions here. So with this, I end my presentation today. There is a prayer I would like to say today. Chandrahasojjavalakara Sharadula Varvahana Katyayani Shubham Dadhya Devi Danavaghatini, which means, O Katyayani, daughter of Rishi Katyayan, who holds the Chandrahas, that is Lord Shankar's Khadga, in her fair hand and rides the ferocious lion, O slayer of the demon Mahishasur, I pray to you to grant me auspicious blessings. Thank you. With this, Samvedi, I hand it over to you. Would anyone like to say something?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I have put 2 questions in the chat box.
Sir, I'm partially blind, so it will be difficult for me to read. Could you please, I request you to read them out?
Yes.
Yeah.
See, the electric vehicles now, which are so much canvassed for as an alternate for the carbon emissions through diesel and petrol.
Right.
But the electric cars run on lithium-ion batteries, and lithium-ion batteries themselves are too much polluting. So
Exactly. Yes.
So when we promote electric driven, yeah.
Yes, this was one of the points of discussion we had on one of the groups. It is called CAMAP, of which I am a member, where all our cost accountants practitioners are there. So my observation, sir, is firstly, India is not ready for electric vehicles because see, wherever we go to charge, we are going to use electric supply from the electric supply boards. Where do they get their electricity from? They get it from coal fire.
Only if it is a nuclear, then only it will be clean. Otherwise, if it is going to come from coal-based or this thing, even today, 80% comes from the coal-based only.
Exactly. So we are not ready for that, firstly. Secondly, lithium. Lithium batteries are very difficult to dispose of. How much is the battery life? Hardly 3 to 5 years at the most.
Yes.
What do you do with
And
that?
they are highly polluting.
Yes. And recycling lithium is not very easy. We don't have that technology in India. We don't have the battery technology yet. We are importing batteries from China, Korea. So at the moment, in my personal opinion, it is senseless to promote electric vehicles here. It is okay if you export them, but to use them in India is not sensible.
Right. Acha, one question was there for the admin people. That CEP hours are not getting credited, or is it going to be credited at the end of the series? Hello.
Madam Samvedi or Madam Gauri?
Yeah, this is the question for the admin.
Yeah, that's what I don't think they are listening.
Because some other members are also asking the same question. Whether that 1 hour credit, CEP credit is given, because I don't find any credit for past 3-4 days. Or is it going to be added at the end of the series?
I'm not very sure because on the flyer also I don't see any mention of CEP credits anywhere, sir.
No, it is there on the right hand corner on a bold red round.
I see.
1 CEP credit hour.
Okay, so maybe after the entire program they're going to give us a credit.
Yeah. So my query was,
I have not seen.
Yeah. So my query was, if there are 8 such sessions on 8 different days, and if we miss 2 or 3, and if we attend 5, then we will not get anything, because they will say.
I know.
Means ideally it should be. It should be ideally. My request is, one per day. So even if we attend 5 or 6, then that many credit should come. Otherwise, because it may not be possible for all of us to attend all the 8 or 9 sessions.
Yeah.
Just convey this to the admin.
Sure, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Anybody else has anything to share or anything to say? Well, I believe everybody is through with this. So shall we call the session a close?
Ma'am, I would like to take the opportunity to thank you for taking the time. And I know you have responded back at a very short notice and prepared for the session. So really grateful for you to do this. And also like to thank you for being very actively participating in all the days that we've had this session. So thank you to all the participants also for being here. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Thank you, Samvedi. I hope you heard CM Sanjay Natikar's query regarding the CPRs.
Yes, ma'am. I'll take it up, ma'am.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Samvedi. And thank you everyone for the patient listening.